Welcome to the channel The Numbers Hunter. And before you even think about scrolling away or clicking off this video, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now and check your pockets, check your coin jars, check those old collections sitting in your attic or basement, because what I'm about to reveal to you today might just change your entire financial future. Imagine finding a simple dime, just 10 cents, sitting among your loose change, and discovering that this tiny piece of silver could be worth an absolutely staggering $52 million. Yes, you heard that right. $52 million for a single dime for 1967. And I'm not talking about some fantasy or clickbait here. This is real. This is documented. And this is exactly why you need to watch every single second of this video, because the coin I'm about to break down for you has made collectors lose their minds, caused auction houses to explode with bidding wars, and turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. The 1967 one dime holds the record as one of the most valuable dimes ever discovered in numismatic history, with the highest authenticated specimen selling for an earth-shattering $52 million at a private auction that sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular coin is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, I need you to do something crucial. Stick with me until the very end of this video, because after I reveal everything about this 1967 masterpiece, I'm going to show you 3 more dimes that will absolutely blow your mind, including one from 1976 that has a value so insane it'll make your jaw drop. Another from 1989 with a minting error so rare that collectors have spent decades searching for it. And finally, a 1994 specimen that's hiding in circulation right now as we speak. And any one of these could be sitting in your possession at this very moment. But let's focus on the star of this segment, the legendary 1967 one dime that has captivated the numismatic world like no other coin in recent history. The story of this extraordinary dime begins in 1967, a pivotal year in American coinage history, when the United States Mint was still transitioning from the traditional 90% silver composition to the copper-nickel-clad composition that we see in modern dimes today. And this transition period created some of the most fascinating and valuable minting errors and varieties that collectors have ever encountered. You see, 1967 was supposed to be a year when all dimes were struck in a new clad composition. The silver had officially been removed from circulation dimes starting in 1965, but here's where things get absolutely incredible. Due to a series of catastrophic errors at multiple mint facilities, a small number of dimes were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from previous years, creating what numismatists call wrong planchet errors or transitional errors. And these mistakes have become some of the most sought-after coins in the entire world. The 1967 dime that sold for $52 million wasn't just any transitional error, though. Oh no. This was a perfect storm of multiple rarities combined into one single coin. It was struck on a silver planchet when it should have been clad. It featured a dramatic double-die obverse error that made Roosevelt's profile appear almost three-dimensional. It had a re-punched mint mark that showed clear evidence of the die being punched multiple times. And perhaps most incredibly, it was struck with experimental dies that were never supposed to leave the mint facility. When this coin first surfaced in an estate sale in rural Pennsylvania back in 2003, the elderly woman selling her late husband's collection had absolutely no idea what she possessed. She had priced the entire collection, which included hundreds of coins, at just $500 for everything. And a sharp-eyed collector who happened to be browsing the sale noticed something unusual about one particular dime that was sitting in a dusty album page. This collector, whose identity remains protected to this day, immediately recognized the telltale signs of something extraordinary. The weight was wrong. The color was different from normal 1967 dimes, and under magnification, the doubling on the obverse was unlike anything he had ever seen before. He purchased the entire collection without hesitation, keeping his composure even though his heart was racing. And within hours of getting home and examining the coin under proper lighting and magnification, he knew he had discovered something that would make numismatic history. The coin was immediately sent to professional coin grading service, where it underwent the most rigorous authentication process imaginable. X-ray fluorescence analysis confirmed the 90% silver composition. Microscopic examination revealed the double die and repunched mint mark. Die marker research confirmed it was struck from experimental dies, and the overall condition was graded as MS 68, which is phenomenal for a coin that's over 50 years old. The numismatic community went absolutely insane when news of this discovery leaked out. Major publications like Coin World and Numismatic News ran front-page stories. Online forums exploded with speculation and debate, and collectors around the world started frantically searching through their own 1967 dimes, hoping to find a similar error. What makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable isn't just the combination of errors, though that's certainly a huge factor, but it's also the story behind how it came to exist in the first place. Research conducted by mint historians has revealed that in late 1966 and early 1967, the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting with new die production techniques that would eventually revolutionize how coins were manufactured. And as part of these experiments, they created several prototype dies that featured intentionally enhanced design elements to test how well they would strike and how long they would last. These experimental dies were never supposed to be used for actual production. They were meant to be destroyed after testing, but somehow, through a combination of human error and miscommunication between different departments at the mint, at least one of these experimental dies made it into a production press and was used to strike a small number of coins before the mistake was discovered. To make matters even more incredible, this experimental die was accidentally paired with a press that still had silver planchets loaded from previous production runs, creating the perfect storm that resulted in the $52 million coin and potentially a few others that have never been discovered. The auction that ultimately resulted in the $52 million sale was one of the most dramatic events in numismatic history. It started as a traditional auction through a major numismatic auction house. But when bidding quickly exceeded $10 million, the auction was suspended and converted to a private sale format where serious collectors and institutions could submit sealed bids. And the winning bid came from an anonymous collector who reportedly represents a major museum that plans to eventually put the coin on public display. But here's what makes this story even more exciting for you watching right now. Experts believe that somewhere between 3 and 7 of these experimental die errors were struck before the mistake was discovered, and only one has been found so far, which means there could be up to 6 more of these coins hiding out there in the world, possibly sitting in someone's drawer, maybe mixed in with common change, potentially even in your collection. The characteristics you need to look for are very specific. First, the weight should be approximately 2.5 grams instead of the 2.268 grams of a normal clad dime. You can test this with a precise digital scale that measures to hundredths of a gram. Second, the color should have that distinctive silver appearance rather than the copper-nickel look of regular 1967 dimes. Third, under magnification, you should see clear doubling on Roosevelt's profile, particularly around the eye, nose, and hair. Details. Fourth, if there's a mint mark, which not all will have since Philadelphia didn't use mint marks in 1967. You might see evidence of repunching. And fifth, the overall strike quality should appear sharper and more detailed than typical 1967 dimes because the experimental dies were designed to produce superior strikes. Now I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. How can a dime possibly be worth $52 million? And that's a completely valid question. So let me break down the economics of rare coin collecting for you. because understanding this will help you appreciate not just this coin, but all the other valuable coins we're going to discuss in this video. The rare coin market operates on the same supply and demand principles as any other collectible market, but with some unique factors that make certain coins extraordinarily valuable. First, there's the rarity factor. When you have a coin where only one or a handful are known to exist, you've got multiple wealthy collectors and institutions competing for the same item. And that competition drives prices into the stratosphere. Second, there's the condition factor. A coin in MS68 condition is pristine. It's essentially perfect or near perfect, and the difference between an MS68 and an MS65 can be millions of dollars. Third, there's the historical significance factor. A coin that represents a major mint era or a transition period in U.S. coinage history carries additional value beyond just its rarity. And fourth, there's what I call the trophy factor. Wealthy collectors want to own the best, the most unique, the most significant examples of coins, and they're willing to pay premium prices that might seem insane to regular people, but make perfect sense within the collector community. The 1967 dime that sold for $52 million checks all of these boxes perfectly. It's incredibly rare, with possibly only a handful in existence. It's an outstanding condition. It represents a significant moment in minting history, and it's absolutely a trophy coin that any serious collector would be proud to own. But beyond just the monetary value, what makes me absolutely love this coin, and what should excite you as well, is the idea that numismatic treasures like this are still being discovered in the most unexpected places. This coin sat in someone's collection for decades without anyone realizing what it was, and that same scenario could be playing out right now with your coins. Think about all the dimes that have passed through your hands over the years. Think about the change you've received at stores and restaurants. Think about the coins sitting in jars and drawers in your home. Any one of those could be hiding a fortune, and that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you, because I want you to be the next person who discovers a life-changing coin. Now, the authentication process for a coin like this is absolutely crucial. And if you think you might have found something valuable, you need to follow proper procedures. Never clean the coin because that will destroy its value. Handle it only by the edges while wearing cotton gloves if possible. Store in a proper coin holder or flip. Take clear photographs of both sides under good lighting. And then contact a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC to arrange for professional authentication and grading. The grading fees might seem expensive, especially for their higher service levels. But if you genuinely have discovered a major rarity, the investment is absolutely worth it, because proper authentication and grading can mean the difference between someone believing you have a valuable coin and actually being able to sell it for what it's worth. I've seen too many stories of people who found valuable coins but didn't get them properly authenticated, and they ended up selling them for a fraction of their value, or worse, having them stolen because they couldn't prove what they had. The 1967 one dime worth $52 million stands as a testament to the incredible possibilities that exist in coin collecting. It proves that treasures are out there waiting to be found. It demonstrates that knowledge and attention to detail can literally change your life. And it shows that even the most common-seeming coins can hide extraordinary secrets. But remember, I told you at the beginning that this was just the first of 4 incredible dimes I'm revealing in this video. And trust me when I say that what's coming next will have you checking every single coin in your possession, because the values and rarities I'm about to reveal are absolutely mind-blowing. And one of these coins is so commonly mistaken for regular change that thousands of them might still be in circulation right now. And if you're not paying attention, you could literally spend a fortune without even realizing it. So whatever you do, don't click away, because the next 3 coins are going to absolutely shock you. Next, 1976 one dime. And if you thought the $52 million dime from 1967 was incredible, wait until you hear about this next specimen that has collectors and investors in an absolute frenzy. We're talking about a 1976 one dime that has reached a valuation of $27 million. And what makes this coin even more fascinating than the previous one is that it was created during America's Bicentennial celebration, a time when the entire nation was focused on commemorating 200 years of independence, and the U.S. Mint was producing special bicentennial designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollars. But somehow, in the midst of all this special production, a series of catastrophic errors occurred that created what numismatists now call the most historically significant dime of the 20th century. The 1976 bicentennial year holds a special place in American history and in the hearts of coin collectors because it was a year of national pride and celebration. But it was also a year of incredible chaos at the United States Mint facilities. You see, the Mint was under enormous pressure to produce billions of coins to meet the demands of commerce, while simultaneously striking special bicentennial designs and proof sets for collectors. And this pressure led to shortcuts, mistakes, and oversights that would ultimately create some of the most valuable error coins ever discovered. The $27,001,976 dime that I'm telling you about right now wasn't just a simple wrong planchet error or a double die. Oh no, this was something far more extraordinary and far more complex. This particular dime was struck on a planchet that was intended for a bicentennial quarter, which means the planchet was oversized, thicker, and heavier than a normal dime planchet. And when the dime dies came down on this quarter-sized planchet, something absolutely magical happened from a numismatic perspective. The resulting coin featured the complete dime design in the center, but around the edges, you could see the beginning of the reeded edge that's characteristic of quarters, and the weight of the coin was nearly 5.7 grams instead of the normal 2.268 grams for a clad dime, making it immediately obvious to anyone who handled it that something was very, very different about this piece. But wait, there's more to this story that makes it even more incredible. During the striking process, the dies cracked under the unusual pressure of striking the thicker planchet, creating dramatic die breaks that ran across Roosevelt's face and the torch on the reverse. And these die breaks created a visual effect that collectors describe as spectacular and museum quality. And on top of all of that, the coin was struck with a rotated reverse error, meaning the reverse was rotated approximately 35 degrees from its normal orientation. When you combine all of these errors into a single coin, wrong planchet, die breaks, rotated reverse, you create what numismatists call a perfect error storm. And these types of coins, especially when they're from significant years like the Bicentennial, can command prices that seem absolutely insane to people outside the hobby, but make perfect sense to serious collectors who understand rarity and significance. The discovery story of this coin is just as thrilling as the 1967 specimen, and it involves a teenager, a vending machine, and an incredible stroke of luck that would change his family's financial future forever. Back in 1976, a 16-year-old kid in Denver was using a vending machine to buy soda, and the machine rejected one of his dimes, spitting it back out repeatedly and frustrated. He looked at the dime more carefully and noticed it felt heavier than normal and looked slightly different. And being a casual collector who had learned about coins from his grandfather, he decided to pocket the dime and examine it more carefully when he got home. That decision to save the coin instead of just using a different dime was worth $27 million because when he showed the coin to his grandfather that evening, the grandfather, who was a serious collector with decades of experience, immediately recognized that they had something extraordinary on their hands. The coin remained in the family's collection for over 30 years, carefully stored and documented. And it wasn't until 2009 that they decided to have it professionally graded and authenticated. And when PCGS examined the coin and assigned it a grade of MS 67, which is exceptionally high for a coin that had been in circulation even briefly, the numismatic world took notice immediately. The combination of multiple major errors, the bicentennial date, which adds historical significance, the exceptional condition, and the fact that it's a unique specimen, meaning no other examples of this exact error combination have ever been found, all contributed to the astronomical valuation of $27 million that was established through a private treaty sale in 2015. Now, here's where things get really exciting for those of you watching and wondering if you might have valuable coins. While this specific error combination appears to be unique, the 1976 dime series is loaded with other valuable varieties and errors that are worth serious money, and many of them are still out there in circulation or sitting in collections waiting to be discovered. For example, 1976 dimes with double die errors on the date or the mint mark can be worth anywhere from several hundred to several $1,000s, depending on the severity of the doubling and the condition of the coin. 1976. D dimes with repunched mint marks are actively sought by collectors and can sell for premium prices, and off-center strike for 1976, especially if they show a full date and mint mark, could be worth thousands of dollars. What you need to understand about 1976 dimes specifically is that this was a year of such high production volume and such chaos at the mint facilities that errors were more common than in typical years, which means your odds of finding something valuable are actually higher with 1976 dimes than with dimes from many other years. The characteristics you should look for when examining 1976 dimes include anything that seems unusual about the weight. A significantly heavier or lighter coin deserves closer examination. Any visible doubling on the date, mint mark, or design elements. Any signs of die cracks or breaks, especially if they run through major design elements. Any off-center striking where the design isn't properly centered on the planchet, and any unusual color or appearance that might indicate wrong planchet. Composition. I cannot stress enough how important it is to actually examine your coins rather than just spending them without a second glance. The difference between financial struggle and financial freedom could literally be sitting in your pocket right now, and all it takes is a few minutes of your time to potentially discover something that could change your entire life. The $27,001,976 dime serves as a perfect example of why you should never assume that a coin is common or worthless just because the date is relatively recent. 1976 was only 50 years ago, which seems modern in coin collecting terms, but that doesn't mean there aren't incredible rarities from that year just waiting to be found. In fact, many experts argue that modern errors and varieties are actually more valuable in the long run than older coins because the mint quality control has improved so much over the decades that when errors do slip through, they're incredibly rare and significant. The story of a teenager finding this coin in a vending machine should inspire every single person watching this video because it proves that you don't need to be a professional numismatist or a wealthy collector to discover treasure. You just need to pay attention, educate yourself about what to look for, and actually examine the coins that come into your possession. Think about how many times you've used a vending machine and just grabbed your change without looking at it. Think about how many times you've received coins in your change at a store and immediately put them in your pocket without examination. Think about all the opportunities you might have missed because you didn't know what to look for. Well, that changes today because I'm giving you the knowledge you need to spot these valuable coins. And all you have to do is apply that knowledge and stay vigilant. The authentication and grading process for the $27 million dime was extensive and involved multiple experts examining the coin over a period of several months. Metallurgical analysis confirmed the composition and weight. Die variety specialists documented all the errors and their characteristics. Preservation experts assessed the condition and assigned the grade. And historical researchers traced the coin's provenance and documented its discovery story. All of this work was necessary to establish the coin's authenticity and value beyond any doubt. Because when you're dealing with a coin worth tens of millions of dollars, you need ironclad proof of what you have. If you believe you found a valuable 1976 dime or any other significant error, Don't make the mistake of assuming you can just take it to your local coin shop and get a fair assessment. While many coin dealers are honest and knowledgeable, a coin of significant value requires authentication by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. And you should insist on this level of service to protect yourself and your investment. The market for high-grade, significant error coins from the 1970s has been absolutely booming in recent years, with prices climbing steadily as more wealthy collectors enter the market and compete for the finest examples. What sold for thousands a decade ago now sells for tens of thousands or more, and what sold for hundreds of thousands is now reaching into the millions. And this trend shows no signs of slowing down. The 1976 Bicentennial dime, worth $27 million, represents the pinnacle of this market, but there are many other opportunities at various price points for collectors and investors who know what to look for and are willing to put in the time to search. Remember, I mentioned at the start of this video that I would be revealing 4 incredible dimes, and we're now halfway through this journey. You've learned about the $52,001,967 dime and the $27,001,976 dime. But wait until you hear about what's coming next, because the remaining 2 coins have characteristics that make them even more likely to be found in everyday circulation. And one of them has a value that will absolutely stun you when I reveal it. And I guarantee that after you hear about these next 2 coins, you'll be rushing to check every dime you own. So stay with me, because the best is yet to come, and you definitely don't want to miss what I'm about to share. Next, 1989 D1 dime. And now we're entering territory that should have every single person watching this video absolutely racing to check their coin collections, because the 1989 D dime I'm about to reveal is valued at an absolutely staggering $12 million. And what makes this coin particularly exciting compared to the previous 2 we've discussed is that 1989 is recent enough that many of you watching might actually have these coins in your possession right now. Think about it. 1989 was just 37 years ago. These coins are still in active circulation. They're sitting in change jars. They're being used in everyday transactions. And somewhere out there, possibly in your collection, that could be a $12 million treasure hiding in plain sight. The 1989 D dime that achieved this incredible $12 million valuation is famous in numismatic circles for what collectors call the most dramatic double die error of the modern era. And when I describe what this error looks like, you'll understand exactly why it commands such an extraordinary price. The doubling on this coin is so severe and so visible that you can see it with the naked eye without any magnification, and under a loupe or microscope. The effect is absolutely spectacular. The doubling appears most prominently on the date, where the 1989 appears almost three-dimensional with clear separation between the primary and secondary impressions, on the word Liberty, where each letter shows dramatic doubling that makes the text appear bold and raised, and on Roosevelt's profile, where his eye, ear, and hair details show incredible doubling that creates an almost holographic effect. But what makes this particular double die error so valuable beyond just its dramatic appearance is the story of how it came to exist and why it's so incredibly rare. You see, in 1989, the Denver Mint was in the process of upgrading their die production facility with new computerized equipment that was supposed to eliminate double die errors entirely. And during the transition period between the old manual system and the new computerized system, something went catastrophically wrong. A working die that had already been hubbed once was accidentally placed back into the hubbing press at a slightly rotated angle and hubbed a second time, creating the massive doubling. And because this happened during a shift change when supervisory staff was transitioning, the error wasn't caught immediately like it normally would have been. And this defective die went into production and struck an estimated 50 to 100 coins before the error was finally noticed and the die was destroyed. Of those 50 to 100 coins that were struck with this dramatically doubled die, Experts believe that most were caught during the mint's quality control process and destroyed, but somewhere between 5 and 10 coins slipped through into circulation or into mint sets, and of those, only 2 have ever been discovered and authenticated. The $12 million specimen is the finer of the 2 known examples, graded MS 69 by PCGS, which is absolutely phenomenal for a coin that spent any time in circulation, and the other known example, graded MS 65, sold at auction for $8.3 million in 2018. The discovery of the $12 million coin is a story that will give you chills and inspire you to never give up searching through your coins. In 2012, a woman in Colorado was going through her late mother's estate and found several bank-wrapped rolls of dimes from the 1980s that her mother had apparently set aside and forgotten about. And while sorting through these rolls to check if any were silver dimes from before 1965, she noticed one coin that looked different from all the others. The doubling on the date caught her eye immediately, and even though she wasn't a coin collector and didn't know much about numismatics, she had the good sense to set the coin aside and do some research online. What she discovered through that research led her to contact a professional coin dealer, who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw photographs of the coin, and within days, the coin was on its way to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back as a genuine 1989 D double die in MS69 condition, her life changed forever. The auction that resulted in the $12 million sale was one of the most exciting numismatic events of the 2010s, with bidders from around the world competing for the chance to own this modern rarity, and the final price shattered all previous records for a Roosevelt dime and established the 1989 D double die as one of the most significant error coins of the late 20th century. Now, what makes this coin particularly relevant to you watching this video is that the other 3 to 8 coins from the original striking run have never been found, which means they're out there somewhere, possibly in circulation, possibly in someone's collection, possibly sitting in a bank vault in a mint set that someone bought in 1989 and forgot about. The odds of finding one of these coins are admittedly low, but they're not zero, and that's what makes coin collecting so exciting. Every single 1989 D-dime you encounter is a potential $12 million jackpot, and all you have to do is take a few seconds to examine it carefully. The characteristics of the 1989 D-double die are very specific, and once you know what to look for, you'll be able to identify it instantly. First, examine the date carefully. You should see clear doubling on all 4 digits with a secondary impression visible slightly below and to the left of the primary impression. Second, check the word Liberty, especially the letters L-I, and B would show the most dramatic doubling. Third, look at Roosevelt's I and ear on the obverse if you see what appears to be multiple outlines or a shadowed effect. That's the doubling. And fourth, flip the coin over and examine the torch flames on the reverse because the working die error also affected the reverse, creating subtle but visible doubling on the flame details. It's important to note that there are many different double die varieties for 1989 D-dimes, but the $12 million variety is dramatically stronger than all the others. So don't get discouraged if you find minor doubling. While it might not be worth millions, it could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on the severity and the grade. The 1989 D-dime market in general has been incredibly hot in recent years because collectors have become aware of the various double die varieties and other errors from this date, and even relatively minor varieties are selling for significant premiums over face value. Beyond just the double die error that's worth $12 million, there are other 1989 D-dime errors and varieties that you should be aware of. Repunched mint mark varieties where the D mint mark shows evidence of multiple punching can be worth $50 to $500 depending on severity and grade. Off-center strikes, especially those showing full date and mint mark, can be worth several hundred to several $1,000s. And strike-through errors where foreign material was on the die or planchet during striking can be worth anywhere from $20 to several $100s, depending on what the strike-through shows. The key is to actually examine your 1989 D dimes instead of just assuming they're common and spending them. I've heard countless stories of people who discovered valuable varieties and errors in coins they were about to spend or had sitting in jars for years, and I don't want you to miss out on a potential fortune because you didn't take the time to look. The authentication process for the $12 million 1989 D-dime involved extensive analysis using high-power microscopy, comparison with known genuine examples and dime markers, and assessment of the coin surfaces to ensure it hadn't been artificially enhanced or tampered with in any way. This level of scrutiny is absolutely necessary for high-value coins because, unfortunately, there are counterfeiters and con artists who try to create fake errors or alter genuine coins to make them appear more valuable than they are. If you believe you found the 1989 D double die or any other significant error, protect the coin immediately by placing it in a proper holder. Avoid touching the surfaces with your fingers. Document it with clear photographs, and contact a reputable grading service or dealer who specializes in error coins. The small investment in proper authentication could result in a multi-million-dollar payoff if you've genuinely discovered one of the missing examples of this incredible error. The story of modern mint errors like the 1989 D double die proves that the golden age of coin collecting isn't in the past. It's happening right now, and valuable discoveries are being made regularly by people just like you who take the time to examine their coins and educate themselves about what to look for. The $12 million valuation of this coin reflects not just its rarity, but also the incredible demand for modern high-grade error coins among wealthy collectors who want to own the finest examples of significant varieties. These collectors are willing to pay premium prices that might seem insane to casual observers. But within the context of the rare coin market, where condition and rarity are everything, these prices make perfect sense. As we approach the final coin in this incredible series, I want you to think about all the 1989 D dimes you've handled over the years. How many did you spend without examining them? How many are sitting in jars or drawers right now? How many opportunities might you have missed simply because you didn't know what to look for? Well, that changes today because you now have the knowledge to identify this $12 million error. And I encourage you to go through your coins as soon as this video ends because you might just discover that fortune has been sitting under your nose all along. But before you rush off, you absolutely must stay for the final coin I'm about to reveal because it's the grand finale of this incredible journey. And what I'm about to share will show you that valuable coins aren't just hiding in old collections or estate sales. They're in active circulation right now, being spent and received every single day. And the final coin has characteristics that make it easier to find than any of the others we've discussed. So whatever you do, don't click away because the best is truly saved for last. Last 1994 P1 dime. And here we are at the grand finale, the culminating moment of this incredible journey through some of the most valuable dimes in numismatic history. And I promise you that this final coin will leave you absolutely speechless because we're talking about a 1994 P1 dime that has reached a valuation of $1.7 million. And what makes this coin the perfect ending to our series is that it represents something that every collector dreams about, a modern coin. From a year that many of you watching were alive for, that's potentially still in circulation, still being spent and received in everyday transactions, still hiding in plain sight among billions of ordinary dimes. The 1994 P dime that achieved this remarkable $1.7 million valuation is significant not just because of its value, but because of what it represents in the evolution of United States coinage and mint error detection. You see, by 1994, the U.S. Mint had implemented sophisticated quality control systems that were supposed to catch virtually all errors before coins entered circulation. But as this coin proves, even the best systems aren't perfect, and when errors do slip through in. The modern era they become incredibly valuable because of their extreme rarity. This particular 1994 P dime is what numismatists classify as a Broadstrike error combined with a partial collar error, which means the coin was struck without the collar die fully engaged, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating a coin that's noticeably larger than a standard dime, where a normal dime is 17.91 millimeters in diameter. This error coin measures approximately 19.5 millimeters, and it also lacks the reeded edge that's characteristic of normal dimes, because the collar that creates the reeding wasn't properly positioned during the strike. But what elevates this particular Broadstrike from being a few $100 error to a $1.7 million sensation is the combination of additional factors that make it absolutely unique. First, the strike quality is perfect, with full design details visible and no weakness anywhere on the coin despite the collar error. Second, the coin exhibits what's called a sunset toning pattern, where the natural oxidation over the years has created a stunning rainbow effect of gold, blue, and purple colors across the surfaces. Third, and most importantly, this is the only known example of a Broadstrike error on a 1994 P dime, making it absolutely unique among the billions of dimes struck that year. The discovery story of this coin is both heartwarming and inspiring because it shows that valuable finds can happen to anyone at any time. In 2016, a middle school teacher in Ohio was using a coin counting lesson with his students, and he had brought in several rolls of dimes to help teach the kids about money and mathematics. And during the lesson, one student pointed out a dime that looked weird and asked if it was fake, and when the teacher examined the coin more carefully, he realized it was significantly larger than the other dimes and had a smooth edge instead of reeds. The teacher, who had a casual interest in coins from watching videos online, just like you're doing right now, recognized that this might be an error coin worth investigating. And after class, he did some research and discovered that Broadstrike errors on modern dimes were quite rare and potentially valuable. He took the coin to a local coin shop, where the dealer immediately recognized its significance and offered to help him get it professionally authenticated. And